Do you ever feel lost, as if you're constantly switching masks, performing versions of yourself that never quite feel real? We scroll through curated lives, measure our worth in likes, and call it connection. Yet inside, something quietly whispers, "This isn't me." Modern life tells us who to be: productive, confident, positive, busy, seen. But Jung would say, that's precisely the problem. The more we chase an image of ourselves, the further we drift from the self that quietly watches behind the image. This is the modern identity crisis, the quiet fragmentation of the human soul. And Jung believed the cure isn't about finding yourself. It's about becoming yourself. In this video, you'll discover how Jung's concept of individuation, the process of integrating all the parts of your psyche into wholeness, can help you feel authentic, grounded, and alive again. We'll explore how to move from performance to presence, from fragmentation to integration, from confusion to meaning. So if you've ever felt like you're living someone else's script, stay with me till the end, because what you'll learn today may completely reframe what it means to be yourself, and how that realization can become the most liberating journey of your life. In this video, you'll learn why modern life disconnects you from who you really are, how Jung's individuation process can guide you toward authenticity, and the practical steps to begin that journey, even in a world built on masks. Keep watching, because the answer to the chaos out there begins in here. We live in an era that celebrates individuality, yet paradoxically, few of us feel truly individual. We're told to be ourselves, but what does that even mean when every image, every opinion, every trend competes for our attention and identity? Carl Jung foresaw this problem long before social media existed. He observed that as society modernized, as religion, tradition, and shared narratives began to dissolve, the individual became unanchored. Without external symbols to ground the psyche, people were left adrift in a sea of possibilities. And with endless choice comes endless anxiety. Today, we curate digital identities like art exhibits. We become our avatars, a highlight reel stitched together for moments of validation. Each like becomes a microdose of belonging. Yet when the screen turns black, we're left alone with the faint echo of a self we no longer recognize. Jung called this the loss of symbolic life. In ancient societies, myth and ritual help people orient themselves within the larger story of existence. Now, we scroll through stories designed not to connect us, but to sell us. We have more connection than ever before, and yet we have never felt so alone. This is the heart of the modern identity crisis. We confuse visibility with self-knowledge, performance with purpose, conformity with connection. And so, beneath the smiling selfies and motivational slogans, lies a quiet hunger to feel real. Jung would say this hunger is the voice of the self, the totality of who you are, beyond the ego, beyond the persona. It's the part of you that remembers who you could become if you stopped performing and started listening. But society doesn't encourage listening. It rewards noise. It teaches us to optimize, to compare, to compete. Our inner life becomes an afterthought, a luxury reserved for those who can afford to slow down. Yet Jung insisted, ignoring the inner life comes at a cost. The psyche doesn't vanish just because we stop noticing it. It rebels through anxiety, depression, burnout, emptiness. He called these messages from the unconscious, the soul's way of demanding our attention. Maybe that's why so many of us feel unfulfilled, even when life looks perfect on paper. We're living from the outside in, not the inside out. The modern world asks, what do you do? Jung asks, who are you becoming? The difference is everything. To understand Jung's answer, we must first understand the journey he called individuation. Individuation is not self-improvement. It's not becoming better. It's about becoming whole. Jung described the human psyche as a vast landscape made up of conscious and unconscious parts. At the surface lives the ego, the I, that manages our daily life, makes decisions, protects our identity. Then there's the persona, the mask we wear to function in society, the version of ourselves that gains acceptance. And beneath it all lie the shadow, animus/animus, and the self, the deeper forces that shape us from within. Most people live entirely in their persona, the social mask. We become what others expect us to be. We suppress anger to appear kind, hide sadness to appear strong, deny desire to appear moral. But what we repress doesn't disappear. It moves into the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It's simply the part of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. Our fears, our weaknesses, our unexpressed creativity, all dwell there, waiting for integration. To ignore it is to live a half-life. Individuation begins when the mask cracks, when the persona no longer fits, when you start to feel that inner dissonance, that sense that you are playing a role in your own life. This discomfort is sacred. It's the psyche's way of saying it's time to grow. Jung's individuation process is a lifelong journey of reconciling these opposing forces. Ego and shadow, masculine and feminine, reason and intuition, light and dark, into a unified self. It's the psychological equivalent of spiritual alchemy. The goal is not perfection. It's integration. When you integrate your shadow, you gain power without arrogance, sensitivity without weakness, and wisdom without denial. You stop projecting your inner conflicts onto others. Instead of blaming, you begin to understand. Instead of performing, you begin to live. In a fragmented world, individuation is rebellion because it requires honesty, not performance. It asks you to face the parts of yourself you'd rather hide. And through that confrontation, you rediscover authenticity. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But the modern world often confuses authenticity with impulsiveness, doing whatever feels good in the moment. True authenticity, Jung would argue, comes from awareness, the ability to see the full map of your psyche and act consciously, not compulsively. So how does one begin this process? Recognize the mask. Notice when you're performing instead of being. Ask, who am I trying to impress right now? Why? Meet your shadow. Observe what irritates you in others. It often reflects what you deny in yourself. Right? Reflect, dream. The unconscious speaks through symbols. Dialogue with the self. Through dreams, creativity, solitude, or meditation. Listen to the deeper voice within. It's not loud, but it's wise. Integrate through awareness. Don't reject what you find. Hold your contradictions with compassion. Integration is love turned inward. Individuation doesn't isolate you. It connects you more deeply to yourself, to others, to the whole of life. Because once you stop wearing masks, you begin to see others beyond theirs. The process isn't easy. It requires patience, humility, and courage. But every step inward brings you closer to freedom. Not the kind that comes from breaking rules, but the kind that comes from knowing which rules are yours to live by. In the noise of the modern world, individuation is a quiet revolution, a refusal to let algorithms define your worth or conformity define your identity. It's remembering that your soul existed long before your profile did. What does it look like to live an individuated life? To embody wholeness in a fragmented society? It begins with awareness. You start noticing the subtle moments when you betray yourself, when you say yes to avoid rejection, when you hide opinions to fit in, when you numb your intuition for comfort. And each time you pause, you breathe, you remember, I have a choice. This is reclaiming agency, the first gift of individuation. It's not about control, it's about consciousness. An individuated person doesn't reject society. They participate in it with clarity. They can adapt without losing themselves. They can belong without becoming identical. They act from their center, not from the crowd. In practical terms, this means choosing relationships that nourish, not perform, pursuing work that aligns with inner values, not external validation, allowing rest, reflection, and meaning to coexist with ambition. This inner alignment creates resilience, because when you know who you are, external chaos can't easily shake you. You stop chasing every new trend, ideology, or identity label for belonging. You realize belonging begins when you belong to yourself. Jung warned that collective conformity, what he called mass man, threatens individuality. But he also believed that individuated people are society's hope. When even a few individuals awaken to their inner truth, they become centers of gravity for others, quiet forces of integrity in a culture of noise. This is the ripple effect of individuation. When you heal your inner division, you heal a fragment of the world's division. Imagine a culture where people are not driven by fear of rejection, but by the love of truth, where self-knowledge replaces performance, where silence is as valuable as speech. That begins with one person, you, daring to live whole. Of course, you will still struggle. Individuation is not a final destination. It's a lifelong unfolding. You will lose yourself again many times, but now you'll know the path home. And that knowledge changes everything. Every time you choose reflection over reaction, you strengthen the bridge between your conscious mind and your deeper self. Every time you honor an inner truth instead of a social script, you reclaim a piece of your soul. The more you integrate, the more alive you become, not in a dramatic way, but in subtle, powerful ways. Peace instead of panic, clarity instead of confusion, meaning instead of mimicry. You begin to realize authenticity is not a brand. It's a relationship between who you are and who you're becoming. And the more whole you become, the more you begin to see wholeness in others. You stop needing to fix them. You simply mirror back their potential, the way light reflects on still water. That's the hidden promise of Jung's psychology. When you integrate your inner world, you change the outer one, quietly, profoundly, irrevocably. If you watch this far, you already know something most people never discover. The search for identity is not about finding a label. It's about becoming conscious. Carl Jung's idea of individuation isn't an escape from life's chaos. It's a path through it. It teaches us that the answers we seek out there, in status, approval, ideology, or belonging, are mirrors pointing back in here, to the uncharted self waiting beneath the noise. In this video, you've learned why modern identity feels fractured, because we live from the persona instead of the self. How Jung's process of individuation invites us to integrate all our parts, light and shadow, ego and soul, into one authentic whole. And how living from that wholeness transforms not only your inner peace, but your relationships, your purpose, and even your sense of meaning. You don't have to become someone new. You only have to remember what's been waiting beneath the masks all along. So the next time you feel lost, uncertain, or disconnected, pause. Ask yourself not who should I be, but what is trying to emerge within me right now? Because that whisper, that gentle pull toward authenticity, is yourself calling you home. Thank you for watching The Hidden Self. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect before you scroll away. Maybe journal or sit in silence. The journey of individuation begins in moments like this, when you choose awareness over distraction. And if you'd like to keep exploring the unseen depths of psychology and philosophy, subscribe to The Hidden Self for more videos like this. Every week, we dive deeper into the truths we hide, the masks we wear, and the light that waits beneath the shadow. Because in a world obsessed with visibility, your hidden self is your greatest truth. Until next time, remember, becoming yourself is the most radical act of all.